Chapter 1. The Rise of Germanicus. Germanicus Julius Caesar was born into one of the most illustrious families of Rome. As the nephew of Emperor Tiberius, he had grown up in the shadow of greatness, trained for a life of military and political leadership. As Germanicus basked in the glow of his triumphs, the political landscape began to shift beneath his feet. Chapter 2. The political tensions. The year 19 AD began with palpable tension in Rome. The relationship between Tiberius and Germanicus was fraught with complexity. Yet, for Tiberius, the general's popularity was a double-edged sword. Tiberius maintained a cautious distance from Germanicus. This growing paranoia set the stage for tragedy, a clash of ambition and suspicion that would ultimately lead to dire consequences. Chapter 3. The journey to the east. In early 19 AD, Germanicus was appointed to lead a military campaign against the Parthian Empire. This decision was met with mixed reactions in Rome. Accompanied by his family, including his beloved wife, Agrippina the Elder, and their children, Germanicus set off on the arduous journey to the east. The general's determination to lead his troops personally resonated with his soldiers, further solidifying their loyalty and admiration. As they traveled through the provinces, Germanicus and his family received a warm welcome from the local populations. He made efforts to strengthen alliances, establishing goodwill through diplomatic relations and showcasing the might of Rome. However, as they approached the region of Syria, an ominous sense of foreboding began to creep into the atmosphere. Chapter 4. The dark clouds gather. In the early months of 19 AD, Germanicus and his family arrived in the eastern provinces. The region was marked by tension, as local factions vied for power in the face of Roman authority. Germanicus sought to navigate these complexities, emphasizing the importance of cooperation between the Romans and local leaders. While in Syria, Germanicus began to experience strange ailments. What began as fatigue and malaise soon developed into more severe symptoms. He became increasingly ill, suffering from high fevers, severe abdominal pain, and unsettling visions that left him disoriented. Agrippina, ever loyal and protective, sought the counsel of local physicians and healers. Yet, the lack of a clear diagnosis led to mounting fears that something far more sinister was at play. Chapter 5. The shadow of suspicion. As Germanicus's health deteriorated, whispers of poison began to circulate. Some in the court believed that Tiberius had orchestrated a plot to eliminate his rival, fearing that Germanicus's military successes and growing popularity would threaten his reign. The suspicion surrounding his illness only fueled the rumors, creating a web of intrigue that gripped both the Roman elite and the common people. Despite the gravity of the situation, Germanicus remained resolute. He continued to communicate with his legions, assuring them of his strength and leadership. However, the weight of his condition began to take its toll, both physically and emotionally. As the general fought against the illness, he became increasingly aware of the implications of his demise for his family and the future of Rome. In the meantime, Tiberius received reports from Syria about Germanicus's condition. He feigned concern, expressing sympathy for the ailing general while secretly harboring hopes that he would not recover. The emperor's advisors, sensing an opportunity, stoked the flames of distrust, suggesting that Germanicus's popularity could become a rallying point for those disillusioned with Tiberius's rule. Chapter 6. The last days of Germanicus. In the summer of 19 AD, as Germanicus's condition worsened, he began to suspect foul play. He confided in Agrippina about his fears, expressing his belief that someone within the Roman camp sought to harm him. As he lay on his sickbed, he instructed Agrippina to take care of their children and to seek justice should anything happen to him. His health continued to decline, and he became bedridden. Despite the efforts of local physicians, they could do little to alleviate his suffering. On the fateful day of his death, Germanicus summoned his family and close advisors to his side. In a heartfelt farewell, he expressed his love and gratitude, urging them to remain strong in the face of adversity. The following night, on October 10, 19 AD, Germanicus succumbed to his illness, leaving behind a legacy filled with triumph and an uncertain future for Rome. News of his death reverberated through the provinces, reaching Rome in a wave of shock and grief. The beloved general, who had captured the hearts of the people, was gone. Chapter 7. The reaction in Rome. Upon hearing of Germanicus's death, Rome was plunged into mourning. The Senate convened an emergency session to discuss the implications of the loss of such a prominent figure. Senators who had previously admired Germanicus now faced a dilemma: how to navigate the political landscape in the absence of a hero who had garnered immense public support. Tiberius, while outwardly expressing sorrow, could not hide his relief. He attended the Senate meeting, where he spoke of Germanicus's bravery and contributions to Rome. However, the atmosphere in the Senate was electric, filled with whispers of conspiracy and speculation about the true nature of Germanicus's demise. The citizens of Rome, however, were less convinced by Tiberius's displays of grief. They mourned Germanicus as a champion of the people, and protests erupted in the streets, demanding an investigation into the circumstances of his death. The calls for justice grew louder, with many attributing the general's demise to foul play rather than a mere illness. Chapter 8. Investigating the death. In the wake of Germanicus's death, tensions between the Senate and Tiberius intensified. A faction of senators, motivated by the desire for power, began to call for a formal inquiry into the cause of Germanicus's illness and death. They sought to uncover the truth behind the whispers of poison and betrayal. Meanwhile, Agrippina, devastated by the loss of her husband, emerged as a fierce advocate for her children and the legacy of Germanicus. She traveled to Rome, determined to seek justice and honor her husband's memory. Agrippina's resolve and charisma drew public support, and she quickly became a symbol of resistance against Tiberius's rule. As the investigation unfolded, various individuals were questioned, including Roman officials who had served in Syria. The atmosphere was charged with suspicion, and accusations flew among Tiberius's advisors. Chapter 9. The political ramifications. The political landscape in Rome grew increasingly volatile in the aftermath of Germanicus's death. Tiberius, who had long relied on a strategy of isolation and suspicion, found himself cornered by mounting pressure from the Senate and the public. Agrippina's campaign for justice resonated deeply with the people, challenging Tiberius's authority and exposing the cracks in his regime. As tensions rose, rumors began to circulate about potential uprisings in the provinces. Supporters of Germanicus saw an opportunity to challenge Tiberius's rule, and whispers of revolt echoed through the streets of Rome. The emperor responded with a campaign of repression, seeking to silence dissent and maintain control over the increasingly restless population. Agrippina's influence continued to grow, and she leveraged her husband's legacy to rally support against Tiberius. Her public appearances were met with rapturous applause, as she championed the ideals of justice and loyalty that Germanicus had embodied. She vowed to uncover the truth behind his death, presenting herself as a guardian of his legacy and a defender of Roman values. Chapter 10. The trial of Tiberius. As the political climate intensified, the Senate convened to address the calls for justice surrounding Germanicus's death. A faction of senators proposed a trial against Tiberius, accusing him of orchestrating the general's murder to eliminate a rival. The trial would determine whether the emperor had acted unlawfully or whether Germanicus's death was merely a tragic consequence of his failing health. He summoned loyal supporters and allies, crafting a narrative that portrayed the investigation as a ploy to undermine his authority. He framed Germanicus's death as a tragic loss for Rome, invoking the general's honor to sway public opinion in his favor. Despite Tiberius's efforts, the trial took place amid public outcry. Agrippina, embodying the spirit of her husband, became a central figure in the proceedings. She delivered impassioned speeches, recounting the bravery and dedication of Germanicus while highlighting the suspicions surrounding his death.